Hi guys, so I wanted to just quickly cover this, so it won't be a long video at all. I'm also joined by Mia, my doggy. So she hasn't properly joined me for quite a while actually. But she is here today, so if you hear any noises, that'll be her. The reason I wanted to go through the question of what violations of the DGA has Shawn Levy potentially committed is because when we go back to Justin Baldoni's deposition transcript, there was something that stuck in my mind, and it's this. So, if we, there we go. So, they're talking about who Justin Baldoni has recorded phone calls with. And he mentions that he's recorded part of a phone call with Shawn Levy. And this piqued my interest whilst kind of going through all these guild rules, because Shawn Levy is a member of the Directors Guild. And I have now at this point learned in graphic detail how sacrosanct the director's vision and creative authority is, and how protected it is by the DGA. And we've looked at what happens when a non-member basically infringes on the rights of a DGA member. That would be Blake Lively. We've looked at we've looked at the repercussions of a fellow member effectively violating a DGA member's rights, and that was Sony. Now, Shawn Levy is a director and a member of the DGA. And this phone call really bothered me at the time, and I wasn't quite sure why, because it doesn't sound like much when you first look at it. But when I go back to it now and reread this portion of transcript from Justin Baldoni, and I think to myself, like, I keep in my mind the DJ rules, then it makes me think about it a little differently. So Justin is asked, who is Shawn Levy? Shawn Levy is a director and apparently a very close friend of Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds. What did you recall about that call? And Justin says, I recall he wanted to speak to me. And as we began talking, I got the feeling he was calling to kind of adjust or course correct, which made me feel a little uncomfortable. Okay, so that's important. We need to keep that in mind. How did Justin Baldoni feel about this? Did he feel that, the great Shawn Levy was calling him to offer up advice director to director? No. Whatever Shawn Levy said, and again, we've only got this short piece of transcript. There's not much information to go on. We know part of the call was recorded. Justin Baldoni tells us that. We know whatever was said between them made Justin Baldoni feel uncomfortable. And that's important. So then he's asked, adjust or course correct from what? And he says, I don't know. I mean, he's probed a bit further. Again, I'm not entirely sure which lawyer is actually doing the asking here. So then he's asked, what do you mean when you say adjust or course correct? Can you just explain to me a little bit more, please? And he says, it felt like he was being asked to call me. So as he's not stating that as a fact, but he's saying, well, the impression I got was someone has put him up to calling me. And then he elaborates a bit further and says, well, it didn't feel like he was calling to talk or check in. And then he's asked, what was he calling you about? The movie. It Ends With Us and Miss Lively. Now, why would Shawn Levy be calling Justin Baldoni about It Ends With Us? Shawn Levy had no part on this. Most of the rest of the Deadpool cast and crew did, in the end, thanks to Blake Lively. But Shawn Levy did not. But we know he was part of meetings with various people who were at friends and family screenings and, so on and so forth. We know that there was get-togethers with Shawn Levy, with Taylor Swift, Lively and Reynolds, with Bradley Cooper and Gigi Hadid, and, other people as well. So he was part of those kind of meetings, which we which we heavily suspect were to influence, shall we say, how Blake Lively took over the film. There is literally no reason for Shawn Levy to be calling Justin Baldoni out of the blue to give him advice about films, how to work with Blake Lively. So Justin is asked, was he calling you about the tensions that were arising in relation to that movie? No. So he wasn't calling about any sexual harassment allegations. It wasn't about that. So what about the movie? It ends with us. Was he calling you about? And Justin Baldoni says he is calling to give me advice. It appeared on how to handle or navigate making a movie with Miss Lively. When in time was this? And Justin says, I could be wrong. I believe it was April of 2023. What else happened in April of 2023? That is when Blake Lively was talking about her dragons, one of which was Shawn Levy. Shawn Levy was the director of the Dragons, along with Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift. It was also the time when she was utilizing her other dragon, Taylor Swift. My doofus clown boss is coming. Can you tell him how great my rewrite of the rooftop scene is? Tell him you love it. You don't even have to read it. Just, big me up. All of that was happening at the same time. Where were you located when you recorded the call? At my office in New Jersey. So it's a one-party state, I believe. And it kind of ends there. So I went away and questioned whether or not this call could potentially infringe upon Justin Baldoni's creative authority, whether it was like effectively interference. And it's not a simple yes or no. So if we just go back to Article 7 of the Director's Agreement. Okay. So my starting point is that the DGA does not actually prohibit directors from kind of giving friendly advice to other directors. I mean, that would, I would guess, be quite a normal thing, directors to just talk among themselves and say, hey, have you tried this? Or, yeah, I've got experience with this actor. I found that this worked. Or, I found that if you did this, it really triggered them. I could see that, like in a bit of a, collaborative director to director kind of camaraderie. What the DGA does prohibit, though, is interference with another director's creative authority. It does not allow any undermining of a director's control. It certainly, as we know with Lively, does not allow acting as a de facto second director. You're not allowed to participate in the campaign to influence the director's decisions. And you're not allowed to be used as a conduit for pressure from actors or producers. And of course, there is the all-important one director rule. So any conduct that violates that is, prohibited. So the important question is, was Shawn Levy's call to Justin Baldoni friendly advice? And yes, I'm using air quotes. Or was he acting as an agent of Lively or Reynolds to influence Baldoni's directing? Because the answer to that determines whether or not it is a DGA violation. Now, Justin Baldoni himself said he felt that Shawn Levy had called him because he'd been asked to. Didn't specify that it was because of Lively or Reynolds, though one would... Sorry, my throat is sore. One would reasonably get to that point because, because of what happened with the rooftop scene, where you had Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift coming over and kind of levying a bit of pressure on Lively's behalf to get Lively's own way from Justin Baldoni. And they are two of the three dragons. Shawn Levy is the third dragon that she specifically names in that infamous, ridiculous word salad text message from around the same time. Now, there's nothing definitive there, but there is a recording, right? So we would need to hear the recording for a start, and obviously have a bit more discovery on this to kind of get to a clear answer. But I enjoy a bit of speculation. Justin Baldoni himself did not feel that it was a a spontaneous, hey, I just want to give you some advice and some words of wisdom kind of phone call. He felt that it was like it was a set up phone call where Shawn Levy was kind of being asked to do this on someone's behalf. And I don't see who else is to benefit from that other than Blake Lively. So looking at Baldoni's testimony there from his deposition, Shawn Levy called him. He says that Shawn Levy called him to offer advice on how to make a movie with Lively, and that he believed Levy had been asked to call by Lively and or Reynolds. Now, the critical distinction is if Levy had called independently, there is no DGA violation. Directors talk to each other all the time, advice is normal, and there is no rule that prohibits this either. However, if Shawn Levy called at the request of Lively or Reynolds, there is a possible DGA violation. Because what is happening in that scenario is Shawn Levy is acting as an agent, effectively, of an actor, and he's influencing or attempting to influence the director's creative authority and participating in a pressure campaign, which is effectively interfering with the director's control of the film. And that is where the DGA rules kick in. So let's go and look at the DGA rules. We'll start with 208. The all-important one director to a film. Okay, so this rule prohibits any person other than the director from directing the film. Now, I'm not saying Shawn Levy is trying to direct the film, but that also includes any person from influencing the director's decisions on behalf of others, or any actor or producer from using intermediaries to pressure the director. So if Levy was acting as a proxy for Lively or Reynolds, then that would be a violation. Where else would we go? $503. Oh. So 503 and 504. So 503 is the vesting of post-production rights, and 504 is the no interference with director's cut. Okay. So these sections protect the director's creative control, decision-making authority, and independence from outside pressure. So if Levy's call was intended to shape Baldoni's directing choices, or influence how he handled Lively, or pressure him to accommodate her demands or undermine his authority, then it would qualify as interference and therefore be violation of these rules. Okay. So the DGA prohibition on actor influence. The DGA is actually extremely strict about actors influencing directing decisions. So if Lively or Reynolds asked Levy to call, or used him to pressure Baldoni, or used him to shape creative decisions, then Levy becomes an improper conduit, which is prohibited. So what is the violation there? To summarize, if Levy called Baldoni at Lively or Reynolds' request, then he violated the DGA's creative rights and one director rule by acting as an unauthorized influence on the director's creative authority. If he called independently, there is no violation. So what that what that is saying is effectively is the DGA cares about intent and agency, not casual advice. So, to summarize, if Levy gives friendly advice, that is not regulated. There is no violation because directors can talk informally. If Levy calls at Lively or Reynolds' request, then that does actually affect the one director rule, Article 7, Section 208. There would be a violation. He becomes I can't get the word out. He becomes an unauthorized influence on the director. If Levy pressurizes Baldoni to accommodate Lively, then that does affect the creative rights under Article 7, Sections 503 and 504. Sorry, just moving screens. Yeah, under sections 503 and 504, there would be a violation because that is interference with the director's authority. If Levy acts as a conduit for actor influence, then that would be an infringement of the DGA rule, the DGA anti-interference. Why? Because actors cannot use intermediaries to influence directing. And then finally, if Levy shapes creative decisions, that would be a DGA violation under creative rights because only the director has the creative authority. So it's not 100% clear whether there has been a violation or not. It would all depend on what happened in the lead up to that call and what happened after it, whether it did actually cause Justin Baldoni to change course. You know, I'd want to hear the actual phone call itself. But whatever happened on that phone call, Justin Baldoni was not bowled over at all to be getting this phone call from Shawn Levy. You know, world-renowned director Shawn Levy. He was uncomfortable. That was his word. He was uncomfortable. And he felt that this call had been initiated by someone else, and it was to influence him to change course and give him advice on how to handle Miss Lively. If that advice was, do you know what, mate? Just give her what she wants. Honestly, it make your life so much easier. Then that is a violation of the DGA. So I hope this is helpful. It's just a bit of fun and a bit of speculation about what potential violations members of all these guilds are, you know, what was going on behind the scenes. And this is literally based on that small portion of deposition testimony from Justin Baldoni. There really isn't much in there. But, you know, like I say, there's no clear answer just on that alone. There could potentially be ways to find out, you know, but I don't think Wayfarer are going to go down those roads at all. So it's probably going to go nowhere. But I just like to look at things and sort of, you know, put together a potential argument. So it's a bit of fun. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it.